around this time, to most of my recollection, is when things started happening that were out of the ordinary. Now, I am a non-believer. She was a little bit of a believer because you told me you saw your mom at your bedside in ghosts and things like that. But I was a full non-believer at that point. If something weird happened, it got to be next. Wind blew, there was a vibration, something happened.
And how soon after was this?
This is very shortly after because she is very obsessed. Well, that's not too strong a word. With this, his brother was just murdered.
Possessed.
I was angry.
Obsessed.
When did the phenomenon first start taking place? I don't know if even I can remember the first. I think it was picture frames falling. off the
Yeah,
walls.
it started simple. It started with picture frames falling down, falling off the wall.
We had a lot of pictures and platinum and gold records hanging around. There was a lot of hanging things.
Yeah,
And,
even standing up things were falling over.
Yeah, but it does. Like
Because at first when they fall, you're like, yeah,
because it's
picture
not like
fell.
the movies where things
Yeah.
are flying
Yeah.
and they're all falling at once. It's just that they fell. Oh, a picture fell.
Yeah.
And then the next day another picture falls. And
TVs were turning on and off, and
Oh, wow.
radios were going on and off. A lot of weird things. And
I remember there was a radio in the attic. We go into the attic. Do you remember that?
no, I thought that was in the playroom. Cheyenne had a little doll's car that
Yes.
had a radio in it.
Yes.
And all of a
Right.
sudden I hear a radio playing
was like a preacher.
in the
Yeah.
toy box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, what the hell is that? I go and digging through it, and the car radio in this Barbie doll car turned on.
if you remember, we were shooting that one of the reality shows,
I don't remember.
and the two girl directors.
Heidi and Rachel.
Yeah,
Loki
they were
Films,
there.
yeah.
And I told them the house was haunted, and they laughed at me. And then while we were filming, they saw strange things going on, and they laughed and they said, "You're right, the house is haunted."
So these at a certain point, that's a lot of pictures falling, and and frames and breaking.
And just
But I'm
strange
still,
things.
for me, I'm dismissing. For her, she's starting to go, wait a minute. You hear about this all the time in paranormal activity, pictures falling. So the next big one was we came home from dinner one day, the whole family,
Drums.
the drums.
I was there. We
You
all
were
were
there.
there.
Yeah.
And we walked in the house. Well,
we got
you
out of the
weren't
car.
there. No, you were there, but you weren't next to Shane and me because Shane thought it was you. And he got on it was almost comical. We walk in the house and drums are playing badly. Vinny was not a good drummer.
You had to explain. Shane had a drum set.
Yeah, Shane had a drum
upstairs
set
in his bedroom.
upstairs in the bedroom. And someone's hitting, and Shane's with me, and Shane goes over. We had an intercom system, and he presses the button. Cody, stop playing my drums. And Cody says, I'm not playing.
No, Cody came out of the bathroom.
Wherever he
Walks out of
was,
the
he
bathroom.
walked up to us and
Yeah.
said, I'm not playing your drums. So, the fact, we're like,
And then
"Where?"
Shane.
And they're still playing.
Yeah, Shane ran upstairs to his bedroom, opened the door, and the cymbals were still moving.
Oh my
And
God.
nobody was there. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Nobody was there. So that was, okay, that was odd.
Just
That's
a
what I mean,
little
that was a
bit.
little odd.
I just got to say is that when this started going on, I really wasn't spiritual yet. This was the beginning of my journey. And so when you are not spiritual, you question everything and you don't believe it. So you just go, that didn't happen, or I'm imagining things. You make excuses for it. And this started my path. And it's interesting because this is one of those things that moved me forward on my path. But anyway, go ahead, continue.
Well, and at this point, drums playing, pictures falling.
That's a pretty big
Radio's
one.
playing.
Yeah, she goes and gets a book.
Oh, right. I go and get a book about, getting messages from spirits. And I'm reading the book, and I never forget, I'm sitting on my bed, and Dee's walking around by the
I'm in the room.
In the foot of the
I'm in the room, and it's important to know that I witnessed this, because if she told me about it, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, because it was, and she is reading the book, and she says the book says they communicate through electronics.
Yeah.
Ask a pointed question. Say, do this.
You said this in the room?
It
while you
said
were
this.
both
I'm
I
there?
tell
reading it
you.
in the book.
Yeah, to
And I'm
ask them
reading
to
it
do
out
something.
loud to him.
Ask them to do something.
Right.
And to show you they're there.
And I
Off.
said,
Okay.
Vinny, if you are here, turn on the TV.
That's it. And I mean,
Pow.
pop. I mean,
TV went on.
no delay,
Wow.
no
Oh my
nothing.
God.
I was like,
It was jaw dropping.
it's Vinny. I
Yeah.
knew it.
Yeah, I'm sitting there again. I'm
Oh my
scientist going.
gosh.
All right, that's a tough one to dispute. I mean, it was literally do something on the TV
Immediately.
on.
It's time.
Like
the timing.
that.
The timing.
And for those who watch, who will go and say, I want to check out that a celebrity ghost story. They did reenactments, and they did all this stuff as dimly lit
It's
in the
broad
bedroom.
daylight.
In the bedroom, the lights were on. I mean, it wasn't all cloaked and
Creepy.
dark and creepy. It was very.
It was the daytime or something?
No, whatever. Whatever. The lights are on. That's
Yeah.
like a point of it. So, I don't know. Something about the fact that you hear and see this stuff, and it's not mysterious. It's happening, you know. So we got the book. The TV goes on, and Suzette says, "I need to talk to somebody. I need to communicate with Vinny. Find out he's trying to reach me."
Well, this is the problem: is that I was obsessed with getting revenge, and I wasn't 100% sure that Chris committed the crime. You know, because the cops were not telling us anything; they weren't making arrests, and so I didn't know.
And here's Vinny. Now we know he's trying to communicate with
Yeah,
her.
Vinny's
So
trying to
he
talk
wants to
me.
tell me something.
Obviously, he's
Yeah.
trying to get a hold of
Yeah,
you.
and it was very active. So it was like, okay, this is important. He's really trying to communicate with me. I have to talk to Vinny.
And you'd already been reading George
So
Anderson
when
your mom passed.
when my mom died a few years before my brother Vinny, I really took it hard, and I started reading a book by George Anderson called Lessons from the Light, and it became like my Bible. All of his books. It really helped me through a
He's
really
amazing.
difficult time. It was really incredible, and George Anderson's from Long Island.
Yeah.
So Dee sprinkles his magic.
Well,
that's where
she
you were
wants to
living
talk to
at the time.
somebody, and
Yeah.
she and George Anderson was renowned. I don't know where he. I'm surprised I'm not seeing him on
Little-
Gaia.
No,
Little-
he's probably dead now.
No,
He was
he's
very
actually still alive because
Is
I've
he?
looked at.
Hi,
had him on
George.
the
Sorry,
show.
we didn't mean to assume you were dead.
a little context. So he, I believe, got like Lyme disease or lupus as a kid, and he was essentially dead. And pretty much his brain stopped working, his heart stopped beating, and the doctors didn't think he was going to live. He survived and could see, ghosts
After that,
and
he started seeing.
he was in Catholic school at the time and was on the recess, the playground going, "Hey, Timmy, your grandma's here and she wants me to let you know that everything's going to be okay and forgive your brother." And, the kids are crying and they institutionalized them, put him in a insane
Yep.
asylum.
Oh.
So, but he is one of the most amazing mediums and no one really knows about him because he's not very public facing, you
No.
know? So, yeah. So,
But it was very hard to get to see him. He
was like
had
a year wait, right?
year wait to see him. But I knew a guy who knew a guy, and we got Suzette in to see him. Well, Suzette and myself, we went together, and
and that was a crazy experience.
So what happened?
That was
What happened
was that
was-
my first psychic I saw?
no, is it?
I think that may have been my first psychic.
I don't know why I think it isn't because
I've
you
seen many since.
you were not. You were.
I think it
Even
was
the
your
one in
first.
Nashville.
I think it was your first.
I think no, I don't think it was the first because she wasn't happy with the
Well-
way he delivered the message.
Wait, so
Well,
what happened?
Okay,
He's
so
very-
first of all,
he's
he
very
had it-
awkward.
It was really expensive. I mean, it was $1,000 back then, and
Back
that's
in
been 20 years ago. That's a lot of money.
Back
And-
in Art 99.
and he meets you in a hotel room. So you go to this hotel room, and we walk into this dark hotel room, and there's two chairs across from each other like this. And then there's a little couch. And Dee went and sat by the couch, and I sit across him. And he says to me, "Don't say anything." And I don't say anything. And his eyes roll over the back of his head, and he's got a pad and a pen, and he's doing this. And his eyes are rolling over.
He's not writing anything down.
No,
he's
he's
just
scribbling.
making this move.
Now he doesn't say
motion.
hello or nice to meet
Oh,
you.
really?
Or nothing. No,
Very
nothing.
cold.
Just don't say a word. That's
And,
what
and
he
the
said.
environment also was just. She may remember this differently than I do, but it was like a Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
But he had rented a room that didn't have a bed in it, so it was sort of like a
room.
meeting room.
Yeah, it was
where they
a
had a couple of chairs, like you can get suites where you have a one room. So he had so it felt like almost like a doctor's office.
It was weird.
It was like you were going in, very clinical.
I wouldn't say that, but
Well, not like white and robes or anything, but it didn't feel warm and fuzzy.
no.
Yeah.
That was for sure.
So his eyes
So-
rolling back to his head. He's scribbling on
He's
paper.
scribbling, and so all of a sudden he tells me my family members come through, and he goes, and there are a lot here because I've had a lot of deaths. And he goes, but they're all whispering that the one you want to see is new and don't know how to get here. And I'm like, oh my God, my mom was there. My mother says a few things to me. My uncle says something to me. My grandmother said, and they're all going, oh, wait, he's here. I'm going to start crying. And,
That's okay.
so anyway, Vinny comes through and we start arguing. I'm fighting with a ghost. He goes, my brother's very sarcastic and very funny and very stubborn. And I'm trying to find out what happened. And I'm angry because I want revenge. And he keeps telling me to let it go.
Yeah, she was not expecting that message. She thought he wanted to tell her something, but let it go.
Kept saying-
That doesn't jibe with her family.
So that's the message he was trying to get across.
So I'm like arguing with him, and I'm arguing. First thing the guy says is, "Don't talk," and I'm literally fighting with the ghost. And he says to me, "Do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you the truth?"
That's what Vinny said
Vinny says to me.
to her.
Right. So he's channeling
Through the
him. So he's
Yeah.
speaking as if he's Vinny. He's channeling him.
And he had Vinny's sarcastic tone, and and that's why I'm fighting with him because he's so thick-headed, and I'm fighting with this man, and I leave, and I'm hostile.
We walked out in the hallway, and she was like, "That was awful." She's pissed.
I'm so
Pissed.
angry.
Now I'm sitting there observing.
It was not what I wanted to hear. It was not the kind of conversation I wanted to have.
And George, this is not a slight on you. It's your method, but he's almost trance-like, and he's not looking at you, and he's kind of
Because he's not in his body.
It's
Yeah.
awkward.
Channeling a dead person is more difficult than you think.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not as easy as
Well,
snap.
it looks
snap.
pretty easy on Gaia.
It's a dirty guy.
I'm talking to them now. Okay. Anyway, he, to his credit, recorded every session, and you left with a cassette tape, cassettes, a long time ago, and to take home. And before we left, one of the things they tell you is what questions you want answered. You guys say it all the time before
Like
you
an
go into
intention?
ceremony. Intentions.
Yeah.
What are your intentions? So she had her list, and I'm listening, going, "This is everything she wanted." She's just not, because the way it's being communicated.
It wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and so she was thrown by it. So we went home, and I took the tape and I transcribed it, and I typed the whole thing up word for word, and I brought it in. And I said, "Suzette, read this." Not
It was like a book.
yeah, not meeting, not with George in the room, not in the moment, not now that you've sat down, read it. Everything you wanted to know, he's answering you. And she wanted to make sure she was concerned that he was okay and that he was with family. And he was. And she wanted to hear from her grandmother and her mother, and they all came forward. Everybody she wanted to speak to came forward.
I was raised Catholic. In the Catholic religion, when you don't do things properly, you go to hell. And that was one of my big things that I was worried about. My brother was in hell, and he wasn't. And he was with my family, and he was safe. And, so that was really
So
comforting.
she's reading through it, and after she read it, she realized that she heard his message.
Well, the really sad part of it, I'm going to cry, but
She's beautiful when she cries too.
stop.
It's okay. No?
I'm sorry, baby.
Vinny was suicidal, and he tried to kill himself 3 times before that.
Yeah, and he said, he told her that he wanted to die.
When my mom died, I begged Vinny not to kill himself because I wouldn't be able to handle it. And he didn't. but he caused this whole thing with the tape so he could be murdered and die.
See, that's one of those things where you can't do it yourself. So you put things into action that will bring death upon, like running at a policeman with a toy gun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a name for it. I don't know what it is.
So he
but
told you this? That's what he did?
And he wanted to leave, and he was happier.
Oh, wow.
He was happier.
I
'Cause he
get why
wasn't-
that would be a hard to hear.
It was a
too.
very, last couple of years now I'm getting choked up, were brutal with her brother. He was in institutions. He tried to take his own life. I remember on Halloween, a year to the day that her mom died. It was around Halloween. And he was trying to commit suicide, and we're rushing to the city we pull up on the block, and there's emergency vehicles, and they're wheeling him out, and he didn't die, but it was just a lot of that going on. He was very unhealthy mentally, and he was very unhappy.
He regretted a lot of things that he was involved in, and he was he dealt with a lot of guilt and trauma.
So
when you read that, did you feel like you got the answers you needed?
So the whole thing, all he kept telling me was to let it go, and it's water under the bridge, and it'll all work out
It all
in the
come out
wash.
in the wash. It all come out in
And
the wash.
it's all he kept saying is that he's happy now, and just let it go. He just kept saying it over and over again. Let it go, let it go.
and she did.
I let it go.
I mean, I know if she didn't let it go, she really said, "This is what he wants. It's going to come out in the wash."
I felt like that's what he wanted me to get revenge. I felt that that's what he would have wanted me to do for him. So that's why I wanted to do it for him. And so while he's saying to me, that's not what I want, I said, okay, that's really not what I want. So, okay, I'll let it go. If you're okay, I'm okay.
And this led to the grandest, most scary, in many ways, moment of them all. Every light was on, and we're all watching TV together, and suddenly hear footsteps coming down the hall, heavy footsteps, adult footsteps, and look up, and I see, and it turns out everybody saw. There was the family room was next to the kitchen, and the kitchen led to the dining room, and there was a doorway between you could see from where we were that went down the hallway between the kitchen and dining room. I hope you understand that, and saw a man, a big man with dark hair, wearing dark clothes, walk past that opening towards the front door. And it wasn't that far, and I jumped up and ran over there, because who the hell is this in our house?
Right.
And there's nobody there. Everybody is gathered together in the family room, and when I asked everybody saw the same thing. Saw, and size-wise it was Vinny, hair color it was Vinny. I mean, who else but? And that was the last time any paranormal thing happened in the house.